Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Coptic Cave Iran edition. With me today is Bahram Anushiravan, an Iranian activist from Southern California, known to many as the Sassanid Immortal on Instagram. Bahram has been a relentless and unapologetic voice for Iranian freedom, using his platform to expose the Islamic Republic and the IRGC and to amplify the voices of Iranians who have been fighting for their country long before the world started paying attention today. This conversation is about what Iranians are asking for, what the world continues to misunderstand about Iran and the IRGC, and why the fight for a free Iran cannot be delayed, diluted, or dismissed. Bahram, thank you so much for being with me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. It's a great pleasure, and I'm really happy just to be here to express not only my solidarity with the people, but to really show the world why this revolution is very important and why it means not only the safety, happiness, and autonomy for Iranians, but also freedom for the world, peace for the world.
Yeah, man. You were one of the guests that I really wanted to bring on. I love the content that you're putting up, and yeah, man, I'm a fan. So I'm really
No,
thankful
thank
that you
you
accepted to
much.
be here tonight. So
Absolutely.
before we even
Actually, I'm
no,
sorry,
no,
go ahead. I'm about
continue,
to say,
continue.
well, actually,
Sorry.
yeah, you're a friend of mine. You probably know her. Well, I know you know her very well. Sammy, she actually told me about you. I want to say about like 7, 8 months ago. 'Cause, I mean, I've heard of you before, but she's like, "Oh yeah, that's my friend," and she was like, "Oh, I want to invite him and have him come down to the Zoroastrian temple in Westminster, and you guys can connect more."
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
she really told me all good things about you. So I was like, "Yeah, let me connect with him more, and I'll be more than happy to do the show."
Yeah, I was supposed to go out there with her, I think it was on a Saturday, but she ended up getting pretty caught up with work and whatnot. So it didn't end
Yeah.
up working out that night. But before we even get into the questions, because you and I just recently connected, and you are a fascinating person, man, based off the
No,
information that you
thank
just
you.
told me. I would really love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself so that the audience is better acquainted with you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so I grew up in Orange County, California. All my life, I was born September 11th, 1990. So I know I have a very special birthday that's really connected with terrorism and all that. So I can't even really be happy on my birthday. But yeah, I grew up here all my life. It's always been home. I haven't lived anywhere else. My dad, he's from San Francisco. Grew up in around the Bay Shore, Hunters Point area. My mom's actually from Nashville, Tennessee. So I come from a very kind of diverse background as well. My dad, he's of Creole descent, so we have a lot of European descent in us, African, and we did my DNA test, and I have like what 10% West Asian, so I got a little bit of just everything in the world with me. My mom, she's traditional Southern woman. She's of African American and Irish, Native American ancestry. So I come from a little background that's pretty unique for a lot of African Americans. I'm I'm personally right now. I'm actually back in school. I was actually aspiring to be a historian, but I'm back in it. I've always loved pre-Islamic Iran. I've always loved its culture and history. Found it fascinating. I think it's one of the most underrated histories that's studied, in academia. So I did that for a little bit, but then I got kind of caught up trying to be a big shot, and I was a part of a lot of network marketing businesses like Monavi and Viridian Energy, you name it. I was trying to be that guy who can get rich quick, and so I kind of left college for a time being, and knowing these businesses didn't work out because they're all pyramid schemes, I kind of got back and really started to try to find myself again. And ever since life kind of hit me in the face, because 2017 was a year where I just really started to feel kind of lost in life. Business failing, I'm kind of out of college. There's a lot of things that was uncertain for me. So I remember just really connecting with the Iranian community more by actually diving into Zoroastrianism, and that's when I really started to ask God questions. And this is not to say that other religions are wrong or anything. I just found that following this faith, I really was able to like return to the happiness that I've always felt. It kind of got me back on course. It allowed me to know my purpose, allowed me to just like right now, this conversation we're having is a result of me really wanting to have this activist spirit to really do my part in the world to make a change because I've always felt that in life I needed to be a part of something larger and help people. And so Zoroastrianism kind of taught me, actually really did teach me to be a part of the living world, uplift humanity and to really fight for righteousness. And as we know, us being pro-Israel and being individuals who are striving for the liberties of Iranian people, I've always felt like it's my duty as a Zoroastrian because I converted in 2018. One day when I was at my lowest, asking God, just to really open your eyes, or to open your gates to me, give me your blessings, and just tell me where am I supposed to be. And it just felt like the more I treaded on this path, it just opened so many doors for me. It just opened up um, so many opportunities, and it allowed me to meet great people like Sima,
Thanks, bro. Thank you.
people like Raw Fresh, Ravine on there, Emily Schrader. Just it just really, I just had a lot of blessings because I was a very depressed kid. I was very antisocial, and I always felt like I was supposed to be here in life, just very small. And I really just felt that now that you have this new faith on you, make use of it, bring light to the world, bring change. Just don't be like me, like in the past, spending your life just trying to get rich quick, play video games, kind of be small, kind of live a minimal life. And that's kind of always been my experience. And I really felt like being a Zoroastrian, taking that name Bahram Anushiravan, it actually means the victorious immortal. So I figure, to take a name like that, that really means you really got to be out there. You really got to speak the truth. You got to stand strong, be fearless, and really, yeah, be a light in this world, like all of us. And that's been my little life story. I know I have a lot of other things in my past, but that's kind of been my journey, into all of this, and it's really just allowed me to become my better self, and I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome, man. Admittedly, I don't know too much about Zoroastrianism. I know that Zoroastrianism is one of the oldest religions in the world, that it predates
Mm-hmm.
Judaism, Christianity, Islam, but I don't know
Mm-hmm.
too much about the specifics of the faith. In fact, you would be my first Zoroastrian guest.
Wow.
So,
Yep. All
you know,
right.
I'm it adds a bit of extra honor to have you here tonight.
Oh,
Without further
thank
ado,
you.
man, let's jump into the questions because these are the questions that people want to hear answers about.
Mhm.
Question number one is, you are very well acquainted with the Iranian community. We just missed each other at the protest on Sunday. But you were there
Exactly.
and you heard what Iranians are asking for. But for the world that doesn't know what Iranians are asking for, what are they asking for?
So, as we've seen throughout the protest, everybody's screaming Javid Shah. Almost every post you can see on Telegram, what do you call it? Sorry, well, I keep calling it Twitter, but X. You're seeing everybody from Karamabad, Tehran, Ras, Ray, Khuzestan, Bushar. Everybody's saying Javid Shah. Just like that one moment we saw in Karamabad when they topped that statue of Khomeini. They put the Lion and Sun flag. And honestly, I really do think that the monarchy, or at least a constitutional monarchy, might be the way to go. Because you look at Iran's history, it's always been synonymous with monarchy. And the language, everything is referred to by regal terms. Leaders are always called Shah. You don't really have like, regular leaders with generic names that we might use in the English language. I was having a conversation the other night with a friend about how, like, even in the more pure Persian language, if we address somebody like a woman, you would call her Banu, meaning like queen, like something of a royal title. Um, then what's the name? I know they call him Aga, but that's more of an Islamic term. But I know you would call a man almost like a Shah. I'm not because learning Persian. I'm trying to learn the difference between the Islamic and the more pre-Islamic titles. But almost every term is used to refer to something royal. You read the books like the Shahnameh, the kings that founded Iran, like Hossein and Jamshid, they were the ones that founded the Iranian monarchy of the Pishdadian, Kayanian dynasty. So, this monarchy is really part of the Iranian identity, and it sounds all noble that people want a democracy, and I have no problem with that. But in a place like Iran, and I can't speak for everybody, but I do think that a democracy, as we know it, wouldn't work there because when you look at 1925, well, Reza Shah the Great, before he ascended power in 1925, Iran under the Khadr dynasty was a very fragmented place. There was tribal warlords. You had even to the north, you had Soviets like the Jangali movement who was trying to make all of Iran communist, and you had Bakhtiaris, Lur, Kwazdai, all these people trying to really hone on their control of Iran, and they're really fragmented it. But it was this monarchy under the Pahlavi dynasty that really unified Iran. It's hard to believe. You think that all this time Iran was unified prior to the Pahlavis coming in, but it just wasn't. And it was through the monarchy that Iran had a sense of identity, had a sense of respect again in the world. So I would say that Iranians are really looking for a monarchy that that is part of the history, but something that's ceremonial. Like Reza Shah, he did say he wants to come in there and be the one who can help transition this government from its Islamic Republic to what the people want. But from what we've seen with Javid Shah, and from my perspective, and from all the um, other um, other arguments I've had with people, I just don't think that there's anybody else qualified. People will talk about, oh well, we can have somebody in Irving prison. We can have the local the local man who sells oranges and Rost, or we can have the regular bazaar rug man and Tehran Bazaar be the leader of the people. But at this time, we need somebody with credibility. Somebody needs to bind people together. Somebody that has that has a unified vision and goal, and somebody who's been dedicated. And that is Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. He worked for 46 years since this revolution to be the voice of the diaspora and even the people within Iran. And I do think that this is the guy for us, and I stand behind him 100%.
Yeah, I think it would be, an act of purposeful blindness to deny that he's really the only figurehead, that
Hmm.
people both inside and outside Iran seem to rally around. Unless somebody knows of another, opposition leader that's not part of that terrorist movement, MEK, I
Oh,
haven't heard of them. I haven't personally heard of them. The name
well,
Javid
yeah, well,
Shah has, rang through every protest I've seen, through every city in Iran. And me, my support, it's as somebody who's, not Iranian, I've always been a little bit like reluctant to endorse him too strongly and at the same time to like dismiss it, right? But I was
hmm
raised by a father who had very, very strong, favorable feelings towards the late Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. And so, I like if you're asking me, who do I think is like the real uh figurehead that people can rally around? There's really only one name, and that's Javid Shah, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Um,
absolutely.
so,
And
but digging into things a bit further, um,
mhm.
as far as what Iranians want with what's going on currently with the IRGC, just to be clear, this is not about reform. This is about the
Yep,
complete end of the IRGC. Is that correct?
absolutely. I just don't see them having any more faith in this government. And for far too long, whenever there was time for protest, oh, sorry, reform, it always got crushed. I mean, look at what's his name, Ali Musavi, the man is still on house arrest to this day. Even oh no, Muhammad Ali Khatami, who was the president from 2000. Well, sorry, he was president from 2003 to. Wait, no, I'm sorry, he was president from. I know it was like a
I think he
2 year
was.
term, but
I, I think he was the president. You're talking about Khatami, right?
yeah, Khatami, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
yeah. I
so he
think he was the president before Ahmadinejad. So from maybe like the late
yeah, exactly.
'90s
Because I mean, because he
to
got
the early
sworn in
2000s.
2005. Exactly. Even he was trying to be part of that movement, but we all know that reform is just not possible. Um, one of the Ayatollahs is, His name was Hussein Ali. What's his name? Azuri. He kept talking about reform, reform. Khomeini needs to have reform, and same thing. He was in house arrest. He died from it. But these were again, I don't know. They just seem like these were people that claimed to be about change in the government, but we all know that the clerical power is not going to allow for change. And ever since that, there's been attempts with reform. Again, going back to the 1999 Tehran university protest, that got crushed entirely. Then Green Movement, that was interesting. We saw Barack Obama actually withdrew his support from that. So then Masha Amini protest with the hijab, and then you saw Bloody November in 2019. Yeah, this government just is not looking for reform. And when you really think about it, this government is based on Islamic fiqh. So it's based on this belief that Islam and the Sharia is perfect. You know, these are Shiite Muslims. They still are no different. There's no room for innovation. As they say, bid'ah means innovation to the religion, and that's seen as a great sin. So the idea of trying to have reform in a government like this, it's seen as blasphemy to the clerics. So it's never going to happen. So the only thing that you got to do is destroy it from the ground up.
You know, you are the first guest that has brought up the words fiqh and bid'ah. And
Hmm.
the ironic thing about this is that the Sunni world accuses the Shia of bid'ah. And so
Hmm.
it's just ironic because the IRGC, which is obviously 12 or Shia, you know,
Hmm.
they're against any sort of bid'ah that doesn't correspond with what they believe. And
Mm.
yeah, man, it's enlightening to hear that from somebody else because a lot of people don't know um, just how much this religious clerical power strangles the Iranian people through this,
Hmm.
emphasis on Islamic jurisprudence, the infallibility of the 12 imams and how, the supreme leader Ali Khamenei, he's the closest to the 12
Mm.
imams I think before the hidden imam appears
Exactly.
again. It's like, the hidden imam is like the imam is playing peekaboo with the ummah, Assalamu alaikum.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, what's that
um
mosque in Quam? Is it the Jamar Khan Mosque? They believe that he's in this fountain sleeping, and they have all kind of theory about where he is. But it's just like, it's like, where's Waldo? Where's the hidden imams?
Yeah, yeah. It's just so ridiculous. It is, if it weren't for the fact that so many people were suffering, it'd be easier to laugh at. But this is literally
Hmm.
a regime and an ideology that has destroyed the livelihood and well-being of the Iranian people. Um,
Hmm.
so we know that this is not about reform, that people want to get rid of this regime. They want a secular rule of law, whether it becomes a constitutional monarchy or a democracy, that is up to the Iranian people to decide. But what are the non-negotiables for Iranians inside Iran?
So the non-negotiables. So I know for sure. I know. I guess women, they don't want to wear the hijab anymore. They um they definitely don't want to be closed off from the world anymore. They don't want this they don't want this sense of, oh, westernization is bad and let's prevent, any more of it coming in there. And other non-negotiables would be but I think it's really all simple. They really just want to, from what I've noticed, they want to be part of the world again. They want to be connected. They want to have access to anybody in the world at the convenience. They want to use credit cards like anybody. They want their real to be, at a level that reflects the wealth of their oil. But the non-negotiable, I thankfully, is a no more Islam, no more hijabs, no more religious police. Um, I think for the most part, it's they don't want an absolute monarchy. Okay, I get that they've already have this supreme leader. He's already the king. He's already like the theocratic power. I mean, you may have like the president Peskian or whatever, how do you say his name? He might be a figurehead for the republic, but ultimately all power goes to the supreme leader. So it's really a monarchy that supposedly that everybody hated back in 1979, just with a Shiite flavor to it. And so I do think yeah, it's those three things. Yeah, they want to make sure no hijab, no Sharia law, no Islamic fiqh governing their laws. They don't want to be I don't think they want an absolute monarchy, but they do want the figurehead of it. They do want to have some voting power too, because I think Iranians are ready for that. But I think yeah, so I think it's really simple. I mean, I think it's really to the point now where they just want to have the ability to be a dignified nation again, respected, and be able to connect to the global world again, as well the global economy. And I mean, I have the benefits that European nations have, and nations like the oil countries in Kuwait and Qatar, even though they're another menace to the world, but they just want to have a sense of non-religious control, no, and a sense of lack of censorship. Well, lack of censorship. So those are the things that I see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, listen, you've probably seen this yourself. It's that the Iranians who are fighting for freedom, both inside Iran and the diaspora living across the Western world, they're often accused of wanting to be white.
Mm.
What is
Oh
your rebuttal
yeah,
to this?
that's absolutely ridiculous. But see, a lot of this comes from people like I don't know if you know that guy Sharzadeh, that so-called poet, that little Rumi-esque looking guy who thinks he's so enlightened with his little Sufism. A lot of this comes from the fact that as we've been noticing, Iranians are being attacked from all these other nations around them: Indians, Pakistanis, Bengalis, Iraqis, other people from all over the Arab world. They honestly, I think, have always had a very jealous, almost resentful attitude to Iranians, because I mean, Iranians have the richest culture in the world. I mean, they're some of the most educated people, some of the most innovative. Everywhere they go, they bring industry, they bring blessings. And I think when the Arab world, the Pakistan, or the Dead Sea world happens to be Muslim, and all these other Islamic nations, when they see that, they hate it, because they're like, why are these people able to go into places, build for themselves, make good names for themselves, and yet they don't want to go to the mosque, they don't want to pray 5 times a day, they don't want to eat halal, they don't want to acknowledge as Muhammad as the last prophet. And yeah, that really comes from this idea where the people around them are just resentful of the fact that the Iranians are not following the same formula as them, and they realize that have had this connection to Islam because of the 400 years of oppression, and they assume that's their character. The reality is, Iranians had to be great despite Islam. They had to really hide their identities. They had to find ways they can to express their talents under this pressure, but their heart was never there for it. So when they say Iranians want to be white, again, a lot of it is just this resentment. It's this idea that a people who choose not to be Islamic and strive to want to be peaceful, who want to be contributors to societies, who want to assimilate, and who want to just, coexist with the world. Because Iranians, ultimately, they're a people that, from my experiences, and this is not to be prejudiced or stereotype other people, I don't want them to get that impression, but when you really look at most Muslim nations in the world, and as you as a Coptic man, like your people have, since the days of John, was it Niku, like he saw the Arab invasion. He saw, this patriarchal Coptic, well, with the Coptic, with its patriarchs being slaughtered in front of him, churches being burned, and to this day we're seeing Coptic women being abducted. And the point is, you're seeing a people that just don't want to coexist with people, don't want to assimilate. They don't bring peace. They don't bring a sense of, wanting to do right by you as a brother. They want to come in and dominate, cause terror, just as with the Palestine movements like Hamas and the PLO. So again, it goes back to this idea that they hate seeing Iranians be a people who bring peace, who bring stability, and who maintain their excellence. So that's all it is. They hate seeing a people who can move forward while they stay in the dark.
You touched on something really important, man. There is a jealousy to it. There is absolutely is a jealousy. And what do you think it is about Iranians that have enabled them to really preserve their culture, their language, where other people in the region did not? Like, if you look at Iranians and Afghans, like the difference couldn't be any greater, and that's not
Right.
a that's not like a wholesale knock to Afghan people. I know a lot of Afghans that are very lovely people, but you'd be blind to not notice that there's a huge difference with how Islam has, influenced one culture versus the other. Like Persians are
Hmm.
I mean, Iranians are very, very proud of their Iranian heritage, whereas Afghans, Islam plays a very, very central role in their lives.
Always, always, always. And that's really like the age old question because I want to say even to this day I'm fascinated, and when I look at Iranians how they preserve their language and their history, I mean we're able to go back and even after the Arab invasion, because we all know that many libraries, like the library at Ctesiphon, that was destroyed. There was a library in Isfahan, the library of Suriye, that was said to be a place of astronomy, place of much knowledge, and the Arabs apparently destroyed this place because they believe that there's some treasure below it. There was a library, and I want to say, well, the main ones we know it was in Ctesiphon, there was Isfahan, but there were so many libraries. Like I think it was Al Isfahani. This was a poet from the 10th century. He even admitted that when the empire fell, so many of the books were lost. Ibn Khaldun even said that much of the Persian knowledge was burned. Umar Khattab said, actually, it was yeah, Umar Khattab and one of his generals, Sadi, was it Sadis Wakas? I mean, sorry, I can't do my Arabic properly. I think his name is Wagas. He said, "Oh, Umar, what should we do with these books?" And Umar says, "Oh, well, they're not needed. Even if they contradict the Quran or don't contradict the Quran, they are not needed because the Quran is already sufficient enough." So we heard stories again from Ibn Khaldun's account that um, books were thrown in the Euphrates and some books were burning for so long. It was said that hey, but the heat was so powerful you can heat a bathhouse for like 3 days. So and then when you hear that, it's amazing how they're able to persevere. But I want to say that I think it's the fact that the Iranians, they do have a fighting spirit with them. They were kind and gentle people, but they do have a sense of where when you cross that line, they fight like hell. Um, I think they also had this. I think also, and this is a theory of mine, because they were among the first people to actually experience this Holocaust that came from the Rashidun Caliphate, because they were like right there before they were able to get to Constantinople, right there before they were able to get to Alexandria and places like Cyrene and Libya. They were the first to really experience this carnage from the Arabs, and I think by them being so humiliated and just being the first victims, I think there was a sense of really wanting to preserve. And I know for a fact, as Zoroastrians, there was a really, really tough time. And even there was times where Iranians were even like, we got to preserve our heritage. We got to preserve our people, our traditions. Sometimes it got to the point where, hey, you know what? If we want Iranians, I don't care if you're a small village of like 20 people, marry your cousin because hey, we need to keep our little unique race going. I mean, I know with some extreme things under duress and pressure, but you saw a sense of the priests. They really wanted to help preserve the Mazda Yasna identity and continue it forward. And even to this day, you might read some Pahlavi text on Avesta.org. It might seem kind of extreme, but when you realize in the 8th and 9th centuries, there was this idea too of wealth being distributed between a Muslim and a Zoroastrian. And then there was things where a Zoroastrian, if he wanted to go to a bathhouse or he wanted to be in the public with a Muslim, he had to be segregated or he couldn't even come into the area without getting beaten. So there was a lot of incentive to really protect the autonomy of Zoroastrians. And um, then I think they also channel to the fact that they also were like the first really to help preserve this pre-Islamic identity, because it's kind of amazing. Even to this day, I'll talk to a lot of Iranians, and even while they're very conscious and they're proud of their pre-Islamic heritage, they'll still are like, "Hey, I really want to connect back to my culture. I really want to connect back like, to like the purest form of it." And even back in the days of like we call them like the Safarid dynasty, Rodman, they call them Jacob al Safarid. He was like the one that helped preserve the Persian language after they were speaking Arabic for like 200 years. Really kind of went to like Zoroastrian magi or mobeds to like really find out what the true heritage of Iran is. Same thing with Ferdowsi. He consulted with Zoroastrians like Dadiki, who basically had like a sense of oral tradition that came from the Avesta that he was able to use to rewrite the epics of Iran. Then you have people like Mardavij who come from like North Iran, like Rost. He actually was one of the reasons why today we celebrate Nowruz and our little fire festival Sadeh and all these other traditions, because he wanted to revive the Sassanid Empire. His dream was actually to go to Baghdad. I think his name was I don't know, was it Al? Was it? I'm trying to get his name. I don't know if he was um, Al Mansur. He wanted to go to Baghdad, basically kill the Caliph, reestablish the dynasty, and make Iran Zoroastrian again. So I think there was really a sense of that pride of knowing that they already came from a sense of greatness. They had their own culture, their own identity, their Aryan identity, and they're like, why should we give that up for this Islamic Arab culture that is recent? And but going back to your other point too about this idea of how other cultures fell, and I gotta admit, like even you as a Coptic, you're one of the very few people in that region that have maintained an identity, especially with the Christian culture that came about with, like, was it Saint Mark, I believe, and like what's his name, Cyril of Alexandria, and all these great
Yeah.
patriarchs. They really helped create like a unique Egyptian culture and identity that's still to this day. And but you go to like Lebanon, Syria, Pakistan, even as far as Uzbekistan, everybody's Islamic. Nobody really connects with that sense of pre-Islamic identity. So the Persians, I mean, they're an anomaly, and same as the Coptics, they're just unique people that have not given up. So
Yeah, you brought up something, really important. You talked about how the during the Muslim invasion of, ancient Persia, they burned all these books, right? And so a lot of people, what they tend to almost reflexively say is, oh, well, that's part of conquest, and that's just the
mhm,
history of the world. Well, no, there's actually a huge difference between how, certain cultures and countries conquered others. So Egypt, when it was conquered by the Persian Empire, the Persians treated the Egyptians with respect. They allowed them their holy places. They didn't destroy their holy places. They actually, gave them respect and respected
mhm,
their culture, their values. They didn't try to force their language on them. History is history, but there's also an important feature to history about how subjects under, foreign rule are treated. And the difference between how the Persian Empire treated its subject versus how the Arab Muslim invaders treated their subjects couldn't be more different. And a testament to that
exactly.
is that Iran, ancient Persia, is home to the first Charter of Human Rights introduced by Cyrus the Great. Um, just to move along with the rest of the questions, you know, focusing on what's going on right now in Iran, the fight for Iranian freedom. We have a lot of misconceptions in the West about Iran and the IRGC. What do you think the
Mhm.
biggest misconception about the IRGC is that you hear from outsiders?
Outsiders. So the biggest misconception about them, they think the IRGC is just a military. It's just a little militia that helps fight the wars of Iran like it did in the Iran-Iraq war. But people don't realize this is like basically a Shiite Mossad. They go all over the world. They influence other terrorist groups. They fund terrorisms. They are advisors for other proxies. They're a very dangerous group. They go about putting hits on people. Just like Shapur Bakhtiari in 1993, they went to his house or his penthouse in Paris, France, and they did like this weird ritual where they like tied him up, by his handcuffs, had him on his knees, and when his I can't remember exactly, but I think when his wife came in there, they found him just on his knees without a head, like just decapitated. And then these
Jesus.
guys later, like in 2007, they are getting they got, how would I say, pardoned for their crime against the French government. So there wasn't enough evidence of it. Then you see that the IRGC, they were behind this like let me see, this 1982 Beirut bombing that killed let me see, about 200 and like 50, that's about 2,000 people were injured, but I think like 250 Marines and some non-civilian personnel were killed, all because of this car bomb. And we saw the same thing with the 1983 U.S. embassy bombing. So we're seeing all these attacks from them, and this is all IRGC. I mean, they are like again, they're their own. I'm not saying Mossad is bad, but I mean they're like their own little global terrorist insider of just terrorism and proxy funding. So they're not just this one little military group that just has a name on it. I mean, they are like guardians of this government, and more importantly, what is worse, there's fractions of them. Like, so there's the Besieged, there's the Quds Force, again, who are military members that are usually boots on the ground, that are usually advisors, and then you have again their intel. So I mean, these guys are they're dangerous, and people got to realize the more we keep them around, the more there's going to be terrorism, the more there's going to be a lot less peace in the world. So they're, again, not just a little local, some local little unit that operates within the borders. It's not.
Yeah, I mean the IRGC, just because you referenced the barracks bombing in the 80s, in the 80s, the one that killed all the U.S. Service personnel. The IRGC actually introduced suicide bombing to the Middle East.
Hmm. Well,
Like
yeah. Matter of fact, it was.
that is an IRGC feature that people don't really stop to think about.
And the first time we really heard about that too was during the Iran-Iraq War. I believe it was in 1983. There was a young boy by the name of, I think his name was Mohsen Ali Reza. I can't think of his last name, but I know his name was Mohsen. He was a 13-year-old boy. And this goes back to what I was saying before about why the Shiite religion is very dangerous. Because the greatest of honors that you can give to a Shia Muslim is to die as a martyr for Imam Hussein, to be a shaheed. I mean, that's the thing that they strive for, because they don't see the world like, oh, just live life, be happy, preserve life. Their idea is to fight to ensure that, and well, in their eyes, justice is realized throughout the world. But their form of justice is, again, jihad, seeing the world under the banner of the black flag and what we call the Zulfikar, the little sword of Ali, the little point that looks like a fort. That's their goal, and they think that is justice. And even dying for that is the greatest honor. So that boy Mohsen in 1983, when there was a convoy coming from Iraq, I don't know if this was in, I don't know if this was like in, I think it was Karamabad. It was that border town between like Iraq, or was it a Kermit? I think it was Kermishaw. That's what it was. He basically threw himself under a tank and blew himself up. He's got a whole bunch of grenades and just threw himself under there, and boom. And then Ayatollah Khomeini, not Khomeini, Khomeini at the time, made him like a Shiite saint. So he has like his only imams a day and everything, all dedicated to him. So it came from, like, you're right, it came from these Shia Muslims who happen to be IRGC.
Yeah, and I mean, they say it too. They say "Labayka ya Hussein,"
Hmm.
and now they say, "Labayka ya Khamenei," which means in Arabic, "I'm here for you," like because
Hmm.
they're still, they beat themselves over the head, literally too. They actually beat themselves over the head, literally. But I
Oh,
meant
yep.
it,
I see. It's like bam, 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 bam.
I meant it like
Yeah,
in
and
the
then
sense that
some.
they still, beat themselves up emotionally over the death of Hussein, to the point where, you see these women and men, during, I think, is it Ashura or Muharram, to like
Yep,
slap each other
yep.
and
Is it?
cry and mourn. I'm sorry, it
Oh,
is
absolutely. And then
nuts.
it's
It's
so
so
terrifying
nuts.
how Honestly, it's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen because, if you actually, like, go to, like, Karbala and look at some of these videos they do inside the shrines, how they'll get the swords. What do they call it? They call it, like, top beer, but they'll get, like, a sword, a knife, and they'll just cut their heads open, and here they are wearing, like, these white gowns, and they're just bleeding all over the place. They got these swords or whatever, or again, whatever sharp object in their hand, and they're saying, "Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein," and like you said in the Arabic tone, "We're here for you, Hussein." And I've seen, like, in Lebanon and, like, in Baalbek, them doing this to children. I remember I saw this on a Christian website. This is, like, back in, God, this is, like, 2007. You probably heard of it. It's called JesusIsLord.com, and they're just showing about how the different religions of the world operated, and they're like, "Oh, this is Shiite Islam," and it's a graphic photo, and I click on it. I swear to God, I'm like, am I watching, like, what's that movie called, Cannibal Holocaust or something? It's just like everybody's covered in blood. Children are bleeding from their heads, and then you see like a steak with Hussein's head on it. I'm just like, this is like Temple of Doom shit.
It's so insane, man. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, sorry, man. It's just like I know the images that you saw, and now they're like just running in my head right now, and I feel so bad for those kids. I really like,
yeah,
oh my God, it's terrible. Um,
yeah.
but so how deeply embedded in everyday life is the IRGC
Oh, yep.
of
They're
Iranians?
better every day, just about every day. Just like right now, there's been calls to some individuals. Like I know a friend of mine. Her name is Zara. She tried to make some calls to her family, and matter of fact, she was just in Iran, but she left just as the process got even worse. And she managed to get a hold of some of her family members, but I think what she was finding out was that that line is monitored, so they got to watch what they say. It's like they can't just be on there saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, we're being tortured here, we're fine." They gotta say everything's fine, we're doing good. There no problems. So they got that going on. Then the fact that there's also a demand for people to attend, those Friday prayers where they shout "Death to America." There's even recently I was hearing about how with weddings, like how that operates. If you're gonna have a wedding, you gotta have like almost a segregated area for women, for men. If you're found not having that, either your wedding will get shut down, you get a lot of fine, you get arrested, or you got to bribe the IRGC. So there's just you're being monitored every day over there. I mean, it's not like every time you do something that you aren't without the threats of these guys impeding on your life. I know for a time being, because we've seen this like on some videos. I go on YouTube and you'll see, oh, like the debut of the Mall of Iran or the Tehran Mall. You'll see everybody with their hijabs off and walking around, and we say it's pure propaganda because we all know that the moment that you go out and you're in like in the main city, you're in the downtown area, and you're doing that, you're going to unfortunately, get put in prison or fined. And there's not this sense of where you're never being monitored. Your calls, any venues and parties you're doing, and your attendance. Even we were talking about this thing Takia, like in actually I was reading the book called A City of Lies. I forgot the author. It was like 2010. It was talking about how in Iranian
I know
culture
which book you're
they have
talking
to.
about.
Yeah.
It's one of my
Okay, you know
favorite
exactly.
books. It's one of my favorite
Yep.
books of all time. City of Lies. I think the author's name is Ramita. I cannot remember their name,
That's
but
it.
I'm
That's it.
so glad you brought it up because it's such an amazing book. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just you're the
Oh
first
no, that's
person that
good.
I've
Well,
met
I'm
that
glad
has
you.
also read the book. So yeah,
Yeah, it was
continue with
great.
what you're
Yeah,
saying. Sorry.
great. But it's kind of sad too because we know in this Shia culture, with Taqiya, the Iranians will go, or they're between the lie. Like if there's somebody in their house and their dad has alcohol in there, and let's say down the street, Mr. Ali and Miss Fatima, they're friends with your dad or whatever, you gotta pretty much like lie. You'll be like, "Oh, I heard music coming from your dad's house. What was that? Oh, it was nothing. That wasn't him." Or they might go to the home one day, do a Maimuni, and then the daughter has to like kind of lie and say that, oh, like, oh, did your dad drink alcohol, or is there any alcohol here? Oh, nope, nope, nope. And because then you got these people who are voluntarily snitching, because so that's another thing that's sad. Not only is the IRG monitoring me, but they practically have people who are there to maintain this sense of Islamic integrity. So you have to basically almost lie in order to survive, just like that book was implying. And it kind of became an art. Yeah, the no, nobody's life there without without let's say without freedom. I forgot the department too. Like whenever you have movies or media of any sort, it has to go to the jurists of Islam. So you have to have everything approved. Everything has to be consistent with Islamic beliefs. It can't be anything that's, again, like kind of the innovation. It has to be within Islamic guidelines. So there's no sense of freedom of expression that way. Everything has to be in tune with a Islamic worldview. So it's Islam, IRGC, monitoring, and lying to survive. It's just a terrible time to be in a place like this after 45 years.
I mean, and that's why people don't want to reform the regime. Like you said, they've had quote unquote reformist presidents before, but why hasn't anything changed? Nothing's changed. Literally, the
Hmm.
hijab law has never been repealed, despite having this long line of reformists. So the
Exactly.
Iranians, they're fighting for their freedom. They don't want reform. They want the end of the regime. But what are the Iranians asking from the international community? What are they asking them to do and not to do?
So I think what I know for sure what not to do. I would assume they wouldn't want like another Guadalupe conference as we saw in 1978 before the revolution finally was successful, and that was like, well, that was January. Was it January 27th of 1979? I don't think they want to have Western powers to be there to dictate who's going to rule over them and going to ultimately be a puppet. I mean, 'cause I know Iranians are very weary about that, kind of going back to the whole myth of Mossadegh and the coup d'etat in 1953. So I would assume Iranians just want a government where they can feel confident in, where they don't feel like there's going to be any um, interference with Western powers dictating their livelihoods. Because I get it, they are proud people. They want to have their own self autonomy, and they want to feel as though that their nation is in their image. And I get that. So I do think that's not going to be it. But now, what I know what they do want, for sure, is that they do want there to be some compliance with the fact that, hey, we want to have our freedom, we want to have our own autonomy, we want to have the world with us, especially now with all these murders going on. We want to have powers backing us, assisting us to ensure that we have a secure transition. They want to ensure that the international community and all these human rights organizations, the UN, yeah, recognizes what they desire, but they also just want to ensure that there's not going to be this sense of like, like some bait and switch kind of thing going on. So I want to say that's it. It's mainly they don't want like another Guadalupe conferences where they get to come in there and dictate. And even going back prior to 1953 with the coup, they don't want, like, again, how we saw with Reza Shah. They supposedly he had Nazi connections, which is not true. So we saw the British and the Russians, and was it the 1945 where they basically they sent Reza Shah the Great in exile to South Africa. So they don't want to know that that their elections and or their rightful leaders are chosen by Western powers, because there's a lot of bad history with that. Going back to the Qajar period, with things like the Treaty of Golestani, Treaty of Turkmen with a Turkmenry, where Russia and Britain were actually splitting territories once part of Greater Iran. Definitely, of course, they want to make sure that there's no interference with their oil, because the oil has always been a big thing in Iran. They got ripped off back in, like, it was in the 18, like in the late eight, it was in 18, I want to say it was like, God, I know it was Muzaffar al-Qajar, who was the one who signed the Darcy concessions and kind of gave the British Anglo-Iranian British company 60-year contract with having rights to their oil. That only resulted in Iranians getting only 16% of all the profits, while they're getting the rest. And so I do think that Iranians, yeah, they don't want interference with their resources, interference with their elections, no puppets. They really just wanted to feel that they can finally have a government that is in their image of their choice by their own people. So that's ultimately what I know is what they desire.
Man, you are a bank of knowledge. Like, really, man, like I am just blown away by like just
Thanks.
how in depth you are. It's amazing, man. It's so refreshing. Um,
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
literally blown away. What would the
Oh, thanks so
ramifications
much.
of a what would the ramifications of a free Iran be for the region and for the world?
Oh, yeah. So for the region, so I've always said, like, for example, Israel, is a lion. It's a pillar of the Middle East. It's a nation of peace, and I consider it again that one pillar. We saw under Mohammed Reza Shah Pahlavi when he was part of that. He was part of like the agreements. I know he had agreements with Israel, even the Arab countries. What was it called? I forgot what that little human rights, or that human. Oh, I forgot what it's called. Basically, but he was part of an organization back in the 1960s until the 1970s, where basically he had a partnership, and ultimately there wasn't any terrorism. There was just peace. There was stability, and the fact that Iran at the time was not only the most influential, it was the most powerful. I mean, they had like the highest military budget in all of the region. I mean, especially American weapons, stuff that got under Jimmy Carter. Well, not Jimmy Carter. Who was the president before Jerry? It was
I think there
Gerald
was Gerald
Ford.
Ford and then there was Nixon
Yeah,
before him.
yeah, well, yeah, especially under Nixon. Yes, under Nixon. So, yeah, they had these big weapons deals, and yeah, you ultimately didn't see things. You didn't see the things like the Mujahideen, as you saw in the '80s. You didn't see Taliban. You didn't see ISIS groups. I mean, I know the Muslim Brotherhood and things like that have always existed since like what 1952, but you never really saw a sense of Islamic terrorist groups just like brewing all over the place. It was stability. So Iran, if it is free, secular, democratic, we're going to see peace in the region. And as we've seen, like and the reason why you don't see pro-Palestine people supporting it because they know if Ayatollah Khamenei is gone, IRGC is gone with their quads force, up there being advisors and funds for proxies. There's not going to be like I said, all like what is it? We got over like 100. Let me say, yeah, according to the UN Security Council, we got over 140 something Islamic groups, Sunni and Shia. You got them in Africa, you got them in Yemen, you got them in Saudi Arabia, you got them everywhere. But I know that once that funding is gone from the Islamic Republic, it's going to mean, yeah, stability and peace in the Middle East. Finally, I would say Iran is that second pillar. If they have again that power, they got that Western sense of direction to their country, where it's forward thinking, it's peaceful and democratic. Yeah, we're really going to see a land that is like a light to nations where it's gonna and well, more importantly, we're gonna definitely see the signing of the Abraham Accords. So we're definitely going to finally have an agreement where Arab nations are gonna have to compromise because they know that, hey, with Iran being a superpower again like it was under Mohammed Reza Shah, and Israel being undefeated like it is, there's gonna create a sense of fear and compromise for Islamists and no more funding. So it's going to mean peace. It's going to mean stability, and more importantly, it's going to also be a sense of time. It's going to be a time where Iran could be dignified again. Iranians can be proud of their nation again. They can be distinguished not from being Arabs and being associated with terrorism, like how it was back in the '70s. Iran was like a place you go for skiing, romance, like in Shiraz. Really, it's just going to be a renaissance in the Middle East.
Hmm. I mean, Iran is one of those. rare cultural centers of the Middle East, man. It's just the how far back the culture goes and how much it's had an effect on just even the modern world today. You know, I studied a little bit of Farsi, right? I studied a little bit of Persian
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of years. Didn't get too far because I got kind of lazy with it. But if you study a little bit of Persian, you can actually see the effect it has even on English today. For
Mm-hmm.
and you know, since you studied a
Absolutely.
little bit, you can see that was sort of like when they say, you know, so like in English when we say I am, that comes from hastem, you know, that
Yep.
end of
Absolutely.
them. It's really incredible. Um,
Yeah. Then you got like
so you worked,
Pesar, Baradar.
yeah, Doktaran, like it's really incredible. Like that's why, you know, it's really cool to meet somebody who, you know, wasn't born into an Iranian family, but is also an Iranophile because I consider myself very much the same way. I have a deep admiration,
Exactly.
love, and just fascinated with Iranian history. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we're winding down to the final set of questions, and these are
Mm-hmm.
definitely questions that people want to hear answers to. Um, when Iranians are protesting and being killed, what do Iranians need the most from allies outside Iran?
So yeah, not only do they, I see more importantly, they definitely need more awareness because it's hard to believe. We think that among our little inner circle right now that there's awareness spreading elsewise, but you go down the street, talk to somebody, like Iran is the last thing that's on their mind. So I think it really depends on us, especially here outside of Iran. It's all about making sure we spread awareness to people, just as everybody's putting efforts into Black Lives Matter, No Kings movements, and Free Palestine. Or then you see things like Amber Rose's Slut Walk or the Women's March, like you saw under, I think it was like the first term in Trump's administration we saw in 2017. You got all these things going on, and again, I'm not bashing anybody's freedom to protest, but we really give so much nonsensical things too much effort. And the fact is, the Iranian people are a people that are kind, generous, and pure, and want life like everybody else, but yet the world just kind of just ignores them and just doesn't want to give them their due. And I do think that it's really gonna depend on us as well. For one, to just be there to keep spreading awareness, just as everybody's stuffing free Palestine down our throats. We got to be just as aggressive with, hey, yeah, free Iran, Javid Shah. So we definitely need more awareness. And secondly, we definitely need Israel right now. I mean, use their Israeli their fighter jets as they have, and bomb bases, bomb or use stealth bombers, use your whatever you have in your arsenal. 'Cause, I mean, Israel is like one of the most technical, advanced military programs in the world. So it's like use your stealth bombers, as we saw how they got rid of the Hamas leader. What was his name?
Yahya
What was his name? For
Sinwar,
not Yahya. Yeah,
Ismail
Anna
Haniya.
Sinwar. Yeah, Sinwar.
Ah,
Yahya Sinwar got rid of him when he's up there. I don't know if that was like up there North Tehran, but got
oh,
rid
you're
of
talking about
him
Ismail Haniya.
just as we saw. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. So, we got rid of them, and then we're seeing throughout the 12-day war, we're seeing mullahs, generals like General Salami and all these guys. They're getting blown up left and right. And so they have the power to really just go about and just assist the people, because I mean we're hearing like in places, I believe it was in Mashhad, or I want to say it was in Mashhad. We were hearing that there were protesters actually getting some of these guns and just shooting back at the IRGC. If we can give the people arms, if there can be somebody that can drive some truck, or have some Israelis drop, their Uzis or whatever weapons they use down there in like little bunkers. I think there can be some fight back on the ground, because I know even Trump said he doesn't want to do a boots on the ground thing. But what we do need is that military assistance from Israel, and until Trump can finally make up his mind and do what he wants and get out there and help, that would be great. And a third thing we need, of course, is for the Iranian people just to keep fighting. I mean, I know it's easier said than done. the Islamic Republic has already gone too far with this massacring of the people. I mean, over 12,000, up 20,000. Who knows? It might be. I mean, hearing 50,000 right now. So the fact that these people have willingly allowed Shia Iraqi militiamen to come into their country, Afghans, even I mean even Pakistani militia groups coming in there. We got to yeah make sure that we don't have these foreign groups coming in there slaughtering the people and the people just standing by because like I was saying again, these people come from a different culture and they fundamentally don't like Persians. We've all known that Arabs, I mean, I don't want to create a race war and say that this is how they all think because I mean, there's peace everywhere, but fundamentally, Arabs don't like Persians, and the fact that you guys are now burning mosques like we saw at in the what was that area in there's the Al Rasul in what was that place called? Yeah, in Qaj Square in Tehran. Once that mosque was burned, that literally this whole shockwave of like Muslims like, oh, these are kuffar. They declare war on Islam. Oh, we gotta defend the Islamic Republic. We gotta support Ayatollah Khamenei. You know, and so we are really seeing now outsiders now grouping together, willing to like fight for the Islamic Republic, and these aren't even Iranians. Iran is going. I mean, the Islamic Republic is going to use foreigners to ensure they maintain power even though the people have nothing to go back for. I mean, there's really no reason for the people to go back in their homes and just pray for a better government because there's mismanagement of the water supply, mismanagement of the resources. The riel has collapsed, what, like 30% more than it's already been. So we're already seeing the fact that the people have nothing to lose, but the fact that this government knows that they can't maintain the people with the forward, but they have to depend on foreigners. We're gonna have to have our little own foreign intervention. But yeah, so we need these three things. We gotta have the willpower of the Iranian people. We're gonna have to have some intervention from either Israel or the United States. People need to be given weapons because these IRGC members, they're in their besieged fractions. These are again very battle hardened people who think that going and fighting these citizens who want a dignified nation, they see them as kuffar, infidels. They see them as like going back to the Battle of Karbala. They see them as Yazid. You reject the Deen of Islam, so we're now going to basically kill you because you are, as they say, spreading corruption against Allah on earth. So that's going to have to be those very things.
Yeah, they get labeled Muharib and they're accused of spreading fitna. Um,
Hmm.
it's don't you think it's telling how the Arab and Muslim world is more concerned about, a stupid mosque that is utilized by the IRGC being burned down than they care about the lives of thousands and thousands of Iranians who were massacred by this regime and the tens of millions that are oppressed by this regime? Don't you think that says a lot
Absolutely.
about what the Iranians are
There's a
up
lot.
against?
Absolutely. And I hate to again. I don't want to demonize people, but unfortunately, these surrounding nations they're like demonic because it's like they know the people are suffering. They know that they're going through this tyranny and this isolation and like in this devastation. But for some reason, it's like they want to hold them back in the darkness, like their countries. Like they don't want again Iranians to thrive. And I don't know. It seems like in life, whenever you're a good person and you're pure and you're righteous, you suffer the most. And it seems like people want to keep you down. And these nations are very much like that. They see Iran trying to again be what it's meant to be, this little light among nations, and they want it to be how it is: dark, lifeless, polluted, always mourning, and always just living a life of wearing black, draped in the black garbs, and they don't. And on top of that, they don't have their identity to be proud of. That's kind of why, unfortunately, I kind of had to distance myself even from a lot of my Arab friends. I mean, I love everybody. I want to love everybody for who they are, but I noticed the more I've hung around and really taken pride in being around Persians, and even, of course, being influenced or you say assimilated into the culture, that always bothered them. They was like, "Oh, why do you like Persians? Oh, why are you trying to be Persian? Oh, you act so Persian. I thought you were black, or they'll say stuff like that. And but the fact is, they seem to have, again, like the idea that Persians thriving, having a culture, and even again me being associated with them, they see that as threatening. But for some reason, again, like you said, if they're burning the mosque, or Ayatollah Khamenei is shouting death to America, talking about freeing the Ummah from Western oppression. Oh yeah, they back that 100% up. So I come to the conclusion that the Iranian people just don't have friends among the Ummah. They're like they're just like a lone wolf in the Middle East. They're in an ocean of darkness, and they are that light that is fighting to blossom again.
I mean, even for the Iranians that are practicing Muslims, which is it's not a high percentage. They're treated like dirt
Hmm.
by the predominantly Sunni Arab world, the predominantly Sunni Muslim world.
Hmm. Oh,
They're still
absolutely.
called Majus, and they're
Yep.
called Rawafid, Rafizi, stuff like that. So like,
Yep.
if they're proud of their culture, they're despised, and if they try to embrace Islam, they're still despised. They can't win either way. I got two
Exactly.
final questions for you, and it's almost a shame because I could talk to you forever, man. Like, really, I could talk
Oh
to
yeah,
you
we got it. We got
for
to do this more
hours.
often. See, we
Absolutely.
got we'll definitely do this more often.
My first question would be, what do well-meaning allies most often get wrong?
Hmm. That's a good question. Well, we kind of saw that with Jimmy Carter and these guys. They thought that, oh, the Shah was oppressive. Oh, he locked all these people up by Savak. Savak was monitoring the people. They were brutal and oppressive. And they were thinking these communists and these MEK people like Miriam Rajavi and Masood, her husband, and all these guys who founded MEK. And they're thinking all these mullahs, again, like Ayatollah Khamenei, the current Ayatollah. He was in Evin prison. Then Ali Sharati, the guy who was talking about like this red and black Shiism, which ultimately I think influenced the modern day Islamic Republic. These guys were thought that, well, the outside world thought that, oh, you're suppressing these people's freedom of expression and their thought. But the reality is, you kind of think that in your world, like in America or or Canada, United States, Britain, England, that these expressions of your freedom um are paramount, and it's true. But the fact is that sometimes you think that anybody who's expressing these vocal points of, again, of being anti-government or spreading ideology is harmless. But we have seen in Iran's case that when you had these communists and when you had these Islamists, it's super dangerous. Even like Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, he was assassinated like almost two times. I mean, he was almost assassinated like in 1948 before the coup. That's the whole when the whole most before the whole Mossadegh thing happened. I forgot it was like Fakh al Islam, Shia cleric, went open fired on him. And then in the previous years, one of the prime ministers was also assassinated, and I can't think of his name right now. But he was assassinated. So there's a lot of assassinations going on from these Shia clerics. Then in 1965, one of Mohammad Reza Shah's guards also found another assassination by more Shia clerics. So people keep assuming that the Shah was brutal on people, but the reality is, I mean, you're in a world where there's the communist threat from the Soviet Union, and then there's internally people who are still stuck in the Qajar period, where they're still under the influence of the Umala, and they just don't seem to have a sense of thinking beyond and having a secular monarchy like we saw under them. So I do think a lot of leaders, they look at people's history and they assume that everybody thinks alike, or then that all people can be managed the same. And there's different mentalities throughout the world. I mean, all people are created equally in God's eyes. We all bleed the same, but people have different mentalities around the world, and you can't assume that because here in America or Canada, where people have a sense of pluralism, that we can all just get along. We might have protests and fights here, but in a place like Iran at the time in the 50s and the 40s and up to the 70s, there was there was still fights from others, and so and Jimmy Carter and all these other guys, even like Alan, I think his name was Alan West. He was one of the ambassadors to oh, that's not his what's his name? His name is Alan. I forgot. Maybe it's Alan West, but he was one of the ambassadors of the United Nations from America, and he tried to say that after all the things that Shah has done, Khomeini is going to be considered a saint. He's almost a good cultural figure because Samoa was a peaceful imam. And I do think that, again, outside leaders got to kind of understand a nation and a people before they assume that everybody's is think or they think the same. So I think that's the main thing that everybody gets wrong. People assume everybody thinks alike and they don't.
Yeah, it wasn't Alan West. I cannot remember the name, but it wasn't Alan West. It was somebody else. I take it you read The Fall from Heaven.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
because
Absolutely.
I just started reading that book, and I recently went over that part of the book. So it's yeah, I cannot remember the name either, but I know who you're talking about. Um, and then my final question to you is, if you could speak directly to the Iranian people right now, what would you tell them?
Oh, absolutely. So what I would tell them most importantly is to not only continue fighting for your freedom, never forget who you are, and more importantly, take pride again, be proud of being Iranian. Don't feel anymore like you're just a stain in the planet that is overlooked, and don't feel inferior about your culture. And more importantly, take the time to really reconnect with your true identity, your past, who you like who like the people, the culture, the etiquette, the traditions that made Iran great. And yeah, don't take it for granted being an Iranian. And more importantly, yeah, always make attempts to just read history and really to just see yourself as a really sophisticated people that are privileged to be part of a rich culture. And since we're in this time of revolution, fight for all of that. Fight for an Iran that is respected again, that's dignified, one that can be distinguished from the other nations that surround them, these other nations that for some reason want to keep you in the dark, that want to try to be part of controlling your future and your legacy, making you feel ashamed that you're not Islamic enough or trying to be white because you strive to have a sense of pride and want to actually connect and coexist with the world. So I would say more than anything, yeah, keep fighting. Really take pride in who you are. Don't neglect who you are again. Connect to your roots. Yeah, you know what? I don't tell anybody to believe in something. I don't force people to believe, but hey, become Zoroastrian again, become Christian, really connect yourself to a faith that will allow you to be free from that spirit of Allah that keeps you stuck in the dark and frustrated and isolated from the world, that really prevents that connection that you can have with a lot of people because you guys come from greatness. Cyrus the Great, you come from Anushiravan. You guys come from people like Ferdowsi, Hafez, Sadi, all these great poets. Omar Khayyam come from brilliant scientists like Al Khwarizmi, Razi, these great thinkers. I always say, just remember that being an Iranian is a blessing, and don't let the Ayatollahs for the time being or any time to take that away from you, and don't let them continue having your reputation as an Iranian demonized, because you guys are a kind-hearted, very noble, very warm-spirited people, very affectionate people as well. And that's very
Very
rare
much so.
among a lot of people. And I say that Iranian spirit is something that really changed me, being around Iranians and being welcomed by them and just being touched by their beautiful human expression. That's something that should be forever cherished. And now's the time more than ever to not only fight for your liberty, but to preserve your culture and your dignity. Don't let this Shiite culture that is not even of you, that is of 7th century Arabs and these other groups, yeah, don't let them try to take that away from you again, because the world has been seeing you as a menace because of your association with this religion and this government, but that doesn't have to be any longer. So keep fighting and just remember who you are, take pride in who you are.
That's beautiful, man. That was beautiful.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
first of all, thank you for just coming on and just blessing us with your wealth of knowledge, man. It's rare to come
My
across somebody
pleasure.
who has as much knowledge as you, and I'm sure that the audience feels the same way. And to the audience, thank you once again for continuing to watch my program, to, listen to our guests. It really means the world to us, and it means the world to Iranians that you tune in to hear what my guests have to say and help support and help keep the momentum alive for Iranian freedom. So once again, thank you. And till next time, Khodafez and free Iran.
Oh yeah, thank you, Michael, and thank you, audience, for watching my appearance on this show. So yeah, Koda Hafez, God bless you all, and Javid Shah, may the revolution be victorious.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.